Timeouts in a three-person officiating crew. So for NFHS, 30-second timeouts has our two officials without the ball for the throw-in standing at the top of the key until the first horn is sounded. The official that will be administering the throw-in will have the basketball at the throw-in spot, unless the throw-in spot is somewhere along the team's benches. And we don't want to be alongside the team's benches during the timeout until the teams have left the timeout area. For 60-second timeouts in NLHS, the two officials not responsible for the throw-in will be alongside the first lane block extended opposite table until the first horn. Our official that will be administering the subsequent throw-in will be at the throw-in spot with the basketball, provided that the throw-in spot is not somewhere along the sidelines in the team bench areas. If this is the case, we will not be located in the team bench areas during the timeout. The timeout positions for NCAA officials is identical to the timeout positions for NFHS 60-second timeouts. Here are the bench areas of Team A and Team B. The bench areas are bordered by the 28-foot mark, the inline table side, the sideline table side, and the right and left lane lines, respectively. It should be noted that the foul reporting area is identical to our timeout reporting area. So the same areas that is designated for us as officials to report fouls is identical to the area in which we will report timeouts. So watch our reporting official do a great job of being in a timeout reporting area and informing the scorers table that the team on the right in the video is taking a 60-second timeout. Notice he gives the basketball to his co-official, which is mechanically sound. You don't ever want to hold the basketball while reporting a timeout to the scorer's table. He will receive the basketball back following his completion of reporting the timeout. Notice that when we hear the first horn sounds, both our other officials do a great job of going to the bench areas and informing each team that their first horn is sounded and it is time to come out of the timeout area before the second horn sounds. Our trail official does a great job of stopping the clock with an open hand and raised arm and pointing toward the team requesting the timeout. He does a great job of verbalizing this, and he turns around and reports the timeout to the scorer's table and the timeout reporting area, which again is identical to the foul reporting area. Just a caveat for people watching these videos. In the state of Georgia, we use the same timeout positions for both 30 and 60-second timeouts at the top of the key. Remember, we have responsibilities during timeouts, even though we're in our timeout positions. Our responsibilities are observations of both teams and to ensure that there is no negative interaction or interacting between opposing bench personnel. Remember, in timeouts, all players are now bench personnel. In general, for rule sets where we have quarters, whenever the first or third quarters have ended, the positions of our officials are usually identical to the timeout positions or very similar to the timeout positions. In this case, for NFHS, our officials observe similar timeout positions, but as opposed to being outside the first lane block extended, they are at the first free throw lane space. Our referee or crew chief is at the division line where the subsequent throw in to start either the second or fourth quarter will take place. This is a great communication by our officiating crew to ensure that the last second shot at the end of the first quarter is good. We see that our officiating crew gets together between quarters, which is perfectly acceptable as a mechanic as long as two of the officials have their faces and bodies turned toward the table side so they can observe each team's bench. For most rule sets, the proper positions between quarters is identical to the timeout positions, usually the 60-second timeout positions. When our officiating crew disperses from the huddle, the crew chief will go to the division line, put the subsequent throw in to start the period. The other two officials will take the 60-second timeout positions of their rule set or mechanic set. And remember, for almost most, if not all rule sets, timeout positions and the positions that they take between quarters are identical. You see our officials do a good job of going to each team's bench area to let them know at the first horn and that it is time to start the subsequent period. At the conclusion of the first half, you see our officiating crew will gather together just outside the division line circle opposite table. They will watch the two teams exit the visual confines of the court to ensure that there is no negative interaction between each of the teams. Once the teams have cleared the floor, or while the teams are clearing the floor, our crew chief will go to the scorer's table, ensure that we have the correct score, ensure that alternate positional arrow has been switched and is on the proper team, and check for it to see that all parties regarding score and any statistics agree on everything. Once all checks have been done with the scorer's table and that the teams have left the visual confines of the court, our officiating crew will exit to the locker room. When the first half has concluded, two of our officials will observe the teams going to the locker room and ensure that no negative interaction takes place between the two teams. Our other official will go to the scorer's table, check to see that everything is correct with our scoring officials, and then will exit with his partners to the locker room. Our officials come out together as a crew from the locker room and will take their pregame positions to observe the two teams on the floor, pretty much identical to our pregame festivities when the officials did the same thing. The last two videos of this introductory training presentation is to serve as a reminder that the end of each quarter, being the first and third quarters, as well as halftime and coming back out of halftime prior to the start of the second half, is nothing more than a timeout as well. And that our officiating crew have roles and responsibilities to observe as well as proper positioning.